Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I confess I'm a little confused, and I appreciate the argument or discussion that we've been having, but for me, it's a little too conceptual or, I don't know, metaphysical or theological or whatever you want to call it. I want to try to understand what you're asking us to do. Let's take two books that have been much discussed. The first one is called All Boys Aren't Blue, and I will quote from it. I put some lube on and got him on his knees, and I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of pleasure with the pain. Close quote. All boys aren't blue. The second is another much discussed book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer. Okay? Let me read an excerpt from that. Quote, I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me. End quote. Now, Mr. Secretary, what are you asking us to do? Are you suggesting that only librarians should decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available to kids? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, first of all, there's this...
Don't give me a speech. Tell me what you're asking me to do.
With all due respect, Senator, the words you spoke are disturbing, especially coming out of your mouth is very disturbing. But what I would also tell you that we're not advocating for kids to read porn, to Senator Booker's point.
What are you advocating for?
We are advocating for parents, random parents, not to have the ability, under the guise of keeping kids safe, to try and challenge the world view of every single manner on these issues.
You're getting conceptual again.
I'm not getting conceptual. I'm saying
yes, you are. Yes, you are. Because I want to know what you're recommending. It sounds to me like what some of you are saying, the librarians should decide who gets to see that book.
I'm saying when individual parents are allowed to make a decision of where that line is, and To Kill a Mockingbird, which involves a rape scene, should that book be pulled from our libraries? I think it becomes a slippery slope.
I think you ought to think about it a little bit more before you come here.
I've thought about,
Senator, if you're going to propose something, you ought to be able, in 30 seconds, to be able to explain what you're asking us to do. Ms. Kelly, what do you understand? Well, let me skip you for a second. Mr. Cameron, tell me what you're proposing.
It's pronounced mix.
Mix? Is that how would you like me to refer to you?
Senator, your definition of sexual is synonymous with LGBTQ identity.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you to tell me you read those two excerpts.
Genderqueer.
Do you think that, are you asking that only librarians and not parents have any say in whether minors can read those books? Is that what you're saying?
Genderqueer has never been in my school library, so it's never been banned.
Well, suppose it was. Should it be up just to the librarian, or should parents have a say?
There should be facilitation of collaboration between students,
parents have
and
a say?
Parents should be working with students and educators to be making decisions, because Students
All right,
are
and who
these
decides ultimately? The librarian, or do you take a vote, or who takes the vote?
book review committees in the community in my school district.
You want a committee to decide?
There are committees.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you, how do we decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available in the library? What would you, if you were running things, what would you do?
All Boys Aren't Blue, the scene you mentioned, is about sexual abuse.
I know what it's about.
It's not
What would
erotic.
you do in terms of making the books available? Would you say anybody can see them, or they have to be in a special session?
Students who do not read books like All Boys Aren't Blue cannot learn what is appropriate.
I understand that.
They cannot learn
I understand, but none
about
of you want to
abuse.
answer my question. You come here and you say censorship is bad, and of course it's bad. But the obvious response is, okay, you heard the books we're talking about. Okay, we're not talking about Catcher in the Rye. So tell me what you want, who gets to decide. And all I've heard is the librarians. And parents have nothing to do with it. And if that's your response, what planet did you just parachute in from?
Parents, Senator.
Or what country, more appropriately? This is not China.
Parents, Senator, for all due respect, parents absolutely have a say. My parents were immigrants, came to this country. We never checked out books without our parents seeing what books we were reading. They encouraged us to read books.
Mr. Secretary, I understand this is good for your politics back home.
It's got nothing to do with my politics. My bill is passed.
Of course it does.
My bill is
It has
passed.
everything to do with your politics.
I'm here to.
But you came here with a problem, and I'm trying to understand the solution, and you don't have one.
We solved the solution.
Other than to tell us that we don't agree with you, we'll be on the wrong side of history.
We solved the problem in Illinois. We fixed it because we.
Well, there are others you could work on.
Well, that's why I'm
out
here
of
to help.
time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
To help other states make these decisions.
At this point, there are no senators.
The room fell silent before the words even left his mouth. Senator John Kennedy leaned forward, glasses low on his nose, voice steady and unflinching. And then, with the blunt precision of a man determined to shock the conscience, he began to read. From All Boys Aren't Blue. From Genderqueer. Lines raw, graphic, uncomfortable. Words not often heard in the halls of the United States Senate. Every syllable cut through the air like glass. He wasn't reading them for shock alone, though the shock was undeniable. He was making a point, one that has haunted communities across the country. Who decides what is too explicit, too dangerous, too adult for a child to read? Across the dais sat educators, librarians, advocates, and officials, shifting uneasily as the senator's voice echoed across the hearing room. Each line he read was a test of the panel's composure, of the country's tolerance, of our understanding of freedom itself. When he finished, Kennedy leaned back and asked, calm but cold, "Mr. Secretary, what are you asking us to do?" And with that, the hearing transformed. No longer was it about library policy or abstract rights. It was about the collision of two American instincts, the instinct to protect and the instinct to preserve liberty. The witnesses fumbled for footing. One spoke of context, of collaboration, of committees and community review. Another warned that parents challenging books could silence marginalized voices. But Kennedy wasn't asking for abstractions. He wanted an answer. Who decides? Librarians? Parents? The government? In that moment, the Senate chamber became a microcosm of a nation divided. On one side, those who fear moral decay in the name of openness. On the other, those who fear censorship in the name of purity. Each side wielding the language of protection, protection of children, protection of freedom. It was not a comfortable hearing to watch. It wasn't meant to be. Because the senator's reading laid bare what polite conversation often avoids, that beneath the slogans about book bans and parental rights lies a deeper conflict about who owns America's moral narrative. The books Kennedy read from are controversial for a reason. They blend art with intimacy, identity with exposure. To some, they are mirrors for marginalized youth, reflections of truth rarely acknowledged. To others, they are violations of innocence, smuggled into classrooms under the banner of inclusivity. The hearing did not settle the question. It rarely does. But it did what moments of national reckoning must do. It forced everyone in that room to confront their own threshold. Because this is not just about literature. It's about what kind of society we are willing to be. A society that confronts hard truths, or one that hides them. A society that trusts parents, or one that trusts bureaucrats. A society that still believes moral questions are worth arguing, even when they make us squirm. The exchange grew tense. Kennedy accused the witnesses of dancing around plain answers, of turning moral clarity into committee procedure. They countered that his examples were extreme, that his tone was accusatory, that nuance matters. But in the end, neither side moved the other. The line between freedom and obscenity remained as blurred as ever. What this moment revealed, though, was something deeper, the collapse of shared moral language in public life. Once, America argued about right and wrong using the same vocabulary: faith, decency, duty. Now we argue about narratives and representation and context, each side fluent only in its own dialect of outrage. When Kennedy snapped, "This is not China," it was more than a jab. It was a reminder of what this entire fight is really about. Who controls the story? The state? The schools? The parents? The people? The irony is sharp. Both sides claim to defend freedom, yet both fear what the other might do with it. Parents fear indoctrination. Librarians fear suppression. Lawmakers fear irrelevance. And somewhere in between, the children they all claim to protect are watching a nation argue not about their education, but about its control. As the hearing drew to a close, no consensus emerged. Kennedy, unmoved, gathered his notes. The witnesses, frustrated, clung to their moral ground. The chairman's gavel fell softly, but the echoes carried far beyond the chamber walls. Because this was more than a Senate hearing. It was America, in miniature, a nation struggling to reconcile decency with liberty, compassion with conviction, truth with discomfort. And whether you agreed with the senator's methods or despised them, one thing was undeniable. He forced the question into the light. And once a question like that is spoken aloud, it cannot be unheard. What do we owe our children? Protection from the world, or preparation for it? What do we owe our freedom? Restraint, or faith in the people's wisdom? The books Kennedy read from are words on paper, but the real story is the nation deciding what those words mean. Because in the end, every democracy must decide not just what it allows, but what it believes. And belief in this country has never been tidy. It has always been contested, loud, and painfully human. This has been liberal freedom. Subscribe, stay aware, and stand with us. As we continue to confront power, truth, and the stories America tells its children.